board member will ask a series of grammatical-based questions related to the areas of responsibilities for the position of superintendent. Each board member is allocated approximately 15 minutes and is prepared to 4 to 5 questions. The number of questions each gets will depend on the length of your response. You will have time at the end of the concluding questions for to be asked in the one-on-one interviews tomorrow. We'll start by giving you the floor, 3 minutes for any comments or thoughts you have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Coleman. Really appreciate it. Good morning, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to interview today. I really do appreciate it here in St. Johns County. Very grateful and blessed to be a part of this county and work with the folks that I do work with, including community, the parents, and students. It's just an amazing place to be, and I'm just blessed to be here. And I did want to start out just say I do have 37 years of experience, and I've had experience in 3 different districts. As you know, Seminole County 18 years, St. Johns County 16 years, and Sarasota 3 years in different types of positions. So a great deal of experience there. We are facing many challenges, as you know. There's funding challenge, growth is huge, changing technology, recruitment and retention especially is a big challenge. Safety is a challenge. So we have many challenges. We are a wonderful district. We do a lot of great things, and the people of this district who move here, they move here for the schools. And everybody, I think, can understand that because we have great schools. At the same time, we have some challenges, and we need to address the challenges and work through those. We also have folks who've lived here for a long time, and I think we have an awesome responsibility to continue to move our district in the right direction. For those who moved here for the schools and for those who have been here for a long time. And so I don't take that lightly, and I hope to be able to work with you as we move forward and to the next level here in our school district, helping our kids be successful from pre-K all the way through, and they leave us and either go to college or go into the workforce. So I'm very excited about being here today. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity to interview.
Thank you, Dr. Ashley. And now, board member comments will continue the first leadership and qualities.
So, first off, I'm going to say I take my notes on my phone a lot of times, so don't think I'm ordering lunch or something. All right. My first question is, what are the biggest challenges you expect to face in the first year as new superintendent?
Yes. Great question. I think the biggest challenge is, well, number one, growth. It's been an issue all along for many years. And we just need to continue to work toward building more schools and expanding our schools to reduce the number of relocatables that we have. You know, we have 13,000 students in our relocatables right now, 600 of them. We need to continue to move them out and build our schools. And as you know, we have basically 5 schools in the last 4 years that we have 2 more coming on board in August of 26. And so we keep moving along with that. And part of that is also funding. Funding is another huge challenge, I believe, not only on the capital side, but on the operating side. You know, when you look at the capital side, you know, just trying to make sure that we have the money to move forward with the schools that we need, we know we need, and have planned to build. I know we have two mortgages, so to speak, that are going to be paid off in the next couple of years, which will help us gain some more credit, so to speak, so that we can borrow more funds. We are going to need to build, as you know, an elementary school in Rivertown, another one in the south, and then a K-8 and a high school, which probably is so very middle of the district. So how are we going to do that? How are we going to afford that when each K-8 is $60 million and high school is probably over $100 million now? So we need to keep that in mind. Thank heavens the community voted to extend our sales tax to help us with capital improvements that we have. And that brings me to the next, which is operating. And again, thank heavens to our county and our community for voting for the referendum. Very much needed. The challenge in funding right now is looking at our revenue and our expenses. And our revenue is not keeping up with our expenses. And that's an issue. And we're looking at that every single year, trying to figure out how to work through that. This referendum has allowed us to just really preserve what we already have in place, and then to help with raises, basically, or supplement for our teachers and our employees to keep them here. We need to make sure that we keep them here. We need to make sure that we compete with other school districts. In the near future, Florida economists say that in 2026, there's probably going to be around a $2.8 billion deficit in Florida on sales tax. And then in 27-28, it'll go to $6.8 billion. Hopefully that does not happen. But if it does, we need to really be looking closely at that and thinking about what we're going to do, which means basically freezing everything and trying to figure out how we can move our revenue and assets around to cover our expenses. The expenses keep growing. They keep growing. And right now, when you look at the expenses that, looking in our crystal ball, because the budget hasn't come out of Tallahassee yet, but our expenses could be upward of 13 million new expenses because of FRS, because of inflation, because of other expenses and possible raises that we need to give, and so on and so forth. And if the budget comes out the way we think it might, which would be around $50, an increase of $50 per student, that's about $2.8 million. So there's a deficit of $10 million right there. So how are we going to make that correction? What are we going to do? We have to look closely at our revenue to see what other sources we might have. For instance, foundations in our community. Are there more foundations out there that can help us with this? Business partnerships. What can we do to help there? The community has already helped us by voting in both the sales tax and the referendum. So when you are not a business making things to sell and you rely basically on the revenue coming in and that's all you have, you really have to look at your expenses. And so that's the next thing, is to turn over every rock in our budget, really, to look at every area to see if we're overspending. We need to look at all of our vendors. We need to look at all of our contracts. We need to look at travel. There's many items like that we need to look at. Then we need to look at our priorities. And are there items that we have prioritized in the past, in the last 20 years, that maybe are a barrier or don't need to be prioritized now to meet our goals and our strategic plan, to where we can shift some of those dollars into other particular areas. So I think growth, obviously, and then funding is huge. Also, recruitment and retention. Our HR department has done an amazing job. We're only down by 23 instructional positions, and I believe 40 or so non-instructional positions, support positions. So we're doing a great job. We'll need to do some things there as far as creating more job fairs, but also making sure people understand or communicate with that this referendum has created a situation where you will receive an extra $4,500 or $5,000 to come to our district instead of another district, because I think that will say a lot. Retention, there's quite a few things there. I guess I can talk about that later, or I can talk about that now, but with retention, there are some things that we need to do for our teachers to retain them. When you look at numbers with retention, yes, we're going to stop.
I want to just make sure that you're aware that the responsible from the entire board will be 15 minutes per board member, and then you have within varying of 3 minutes each response, because we really want to get it in the
Okay. All right. So those would be the major areas of challenge that I've seen.
All right. What is your greatest professional disappointment? How did you handle it? Could it have been prevented, and what did you learn?
Greatest disappointment. I think my greatest disappointment was superintendency in Sarasota when we came to a mutual separation agreement at that school district. I thought we were moving along at a really, really good manner, good pace. The board had just approved an additional 3-year contract in May, and then board elections happened in August, and then in November, when they were sworn in, I found that they wanted to have a separation agreement. So that was very disappointing. I know that had a lot to do with politics. How did I handle that? I really decided to just move forward and make sure that one thing I really wanted to make sure of was that the county understood that there was too much politics going on, and it wasn't about the school system and the students, and it was about politics. And I needed the community to understand that as we move forward, whether it's me as superintendent or anybody else, you need to understand that and try to get that out of the school system, a nonpartisan situation, to where you can move forward with the plans that have been put in place. We had done so many things. I mean, getting there at the very beginning, we were in the middle of COVID. So for the first year, everybody wore masks. I was trying to learn people's names and who they are, and everybody's wearing a mask. It's difficult. And then just working through COVID, as you know, was a very, very difficult time. At the end of that, we did come out. Our scores were higher and continued to grow. We created a strategic plan. They hadn't had one for 10 years. The big hurricane, it closed our schools down. We had 2 schools down for 3 weeks and 8 schools down for 2 weeks. And just putting all that back together and such, trying to get rid of some of the litigation that was there when I arrived was major. The accreditation that we created at the district, they never had district-wide accreditation. So there were many PLC piece. We pushed that, and we're really on a good trajectory with the PLC piece and doing great things in classrooms and in the schools, and the scores were improving, and then bam, that happened. Very disappointing. And so it was difficult to deal with that, honestly, because I thought everything was moving along and I didn't really understand what was going on there. So what I do is just try to learn about a couple of things. Keep the noise, don't listen to all the noise, and keep the noise away from the schools and the teachers and the principals as much as possible. They can do their job and educate the students. Make sure that you can do that. And I learned that. I learned a little bit more about politics. I learned about being careful when you think you trust somebody and you don't trust, and all those things that came to fruition in the community and such. So I think I use that as a learning situation, and that's how I really dealt with that. And then just like when you're in sports, if you miss a ground ball, you don't think about it because you're going to miss the next one. So you have to let it go and move on, and just think about the next ground ball that's coming your way. So anyway, that's how I dealt with that.
All right. How do you respond to the concerns of this applicant is a man from our district and we want a new perspective?
Sorry, say that.
How do you respond to the concerns, the community concerns of this applicant is a man from our district and we want a new perspective?
Oh, okay. Yes. No, I understand that. When Dr. Joyner came in, I know he came in from Orange County, awesome superintendent. He was here when he hired me, and I know he brought a different view, with our academies that we started here in our school district. And then Mr. Forson, who's been here for 45 years, took the reins, and I can see what people would say about, hey, you know what, we've done things the same way for a long time, maybe we should have a different view and that kind of thing. I bring three different districts, or experience from 3 different districts. assistant principal, all during my 18 years there. And I saw a lot of things over that time. There's always challenges all the time that you have to work through. So I bring a lot of experience from that standpoint. And then being here in St. John's, I learned a whole different way of doing business. And that was incredible. And learning from Dr. Joyner and Mr. Forson and just the great people who are here, Michael Michler, those were all really wonderful leaders to learn from. And so I have that experience as well. And this school district is doing very, very well under the processes that we do have and that we've had. Doesn't mean we don't need to change some things, but we have done well. And then going to Sarasota and having that experience, that 3-year experience as a superintendent, and working on things that superintendents work on, all those things that I mentioned earlier, and trying to keep the climate and culture going in a positive direction in the school district during all those tumultuous times that were happening at the time. I learned a great deal from that. I learned a great deal from the community and business partners and so on and so forth. So I think, yes, I've been here for 16 years, but 21 of my 37 years were in other districts. So I have other experience that I do bring, and I think you heard just a minute ago some of the things I think we need to look at and possibly make changes on. We've been, when I first arrived here, it did, to me, coming out of Orlando, it felt like, kind of like Midbury. Everybody knows everybody's, all the churches are wonderful around, and everybody's, and so that was a whole different experience. But we're getting so big now. I mean, we're up to 53,000 students that we have to start thinking a little bit differently and do a business just a little bit differently. And I know about that because coming out of Seminole, we had 60,000, and in Sarasota, we had the same as here, 50,000. So.
There's one time. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Dr. Esplin,
I get to ask you about instructional excellence and leadership. And we do have 15 minutes for my series of questions. And the first one is, how do you balance the needs of the special populations such as ESE students, including your gifted and talented ELL students? How do you balance all those different needs with your programs?
Yes, that's a great question. We do have a large number of ESE students in our school system. I think we're up around 10,000 now. So we have 10,000 IEPs. Actually, 9,900 IEPs. And we have 504s, and we have all different. We have a large autism population. So we have many different things going on there. Our IEP programs, behavior programs, we have our ELL programs. So all of those programs that we analyze data all the time to figure out what's the best way to educate our students. I think we need to look at, in our ESE, for instance, ESE department, for instance, the best way to educate a student is one-on-one or small group instruction. So how do we do that? How do we pay for that? Do we have enough resources for that? We do receive about $25 million for ESE in the ESE department between federal and state money, but it still doesn't cover all of the needs that we have there. Our teachers have large caseloads, large IEP caseloads that we need to look at carefully, because I think that's just draining it down to not want to work for us any longer. And we have a large number of folks who will leave, especially in the EED program. We have 14 EED openings right now. So I think what we need to do is look at a few things. First, we need to honestly continue to look at the data very, very closely, understand what the data looks like in different schools, what the needs are in those different schools. Don't supply resources, everybody gets the same resources. Apply the resources to where the needs are so that we have dollars left to provide resources to other areas that are having need. So in other words, let's just not give everybody a counselor, whether you need it or not. Let's make sure that we're putting the money where it needs to go. And so, we have quite a few additional adult assistants, AAAs, that we have outside of our formula. We need to look carefully at that. What is their job? Are they working all day? Are they working with a particular student some of the time? Are we helping that student gain the knowledge that they need through data analysis, PLCs between teachers talking about different students to understand what they need? Are we providing those resources, small group instruction that they need? Also, I think we really need to continue to have the parents be highly involved. I think the more informed that parents are that they can help enhance what we're doing in the schools at home, the better. And that would be true for whether it's ESE, ELL, or any of our students. But we need to definitely have them involved in that and the community and our business partners. But ESE and ELL, it's tough when you look at the achievement gap, especially with students with disabilities. For the last, I know I looked over the last 10 years, it's still 30-point difference. The gap, it hasn't closed. And that's across the whole state. How do we make this happen? How do we close it? Now, if you do look at those numbers, you will see compared to the state, they also have a 30-point gap, but our numbers are much higher. So our students are excelling 20 points higher than the state, but there's still a 30-point gap between students with disabilities and non-disabilities. So we need to just look closely at those particular groups, like we have, those subgroups as we have, and really try to do what we can with our budget and our finances and our resources to make sure that we're putting our money where our mouth is. I know at Mason, for instance, at Mason, they had a huge jump in scores for their ESE students. And what did they do? How did they do that? And Ms. Keaton, she gives you some information about that, but she has an ESE person for every grade level in her school, helping the teacher and the students in that particular grade level. She said that has made a huge difference. Do we have that everywhere? No. Why? Can't afford that. She gets Title I funds, she's able to do that. So we need to look at our funding, we need to look at our staffing formula, we need to look at our curriculum, make sure that our students are getting what they need in a small group or individual setting to help them learn.
Thank you. Talking about another population, what have we done to address the diverse needs of student populations in our district in St. Johns County, including students living in poverty?
I couldn't understand, Dr. Thompson, I couldn't understand that.
Okay, let me try again. Okay, this is another question about populations. The question is, what have you done in St. Johns County to address student populations here, particularly those students who are living in poverty?
Yes. So our students in poverty, if I can just go back for a second, one of the most proud pieces that I've had as a principal was when I was in Seminole County in Sanford. I was the principal of 2100 Title I middle school, and we were able to go from the C to an A. And how did we do that? And that had to do with diligently looking, analyzing, understanding data, sitting down with teachers to help them understand the data, and then having them collectively talk about what and how they should teach our students. Also looking at different programs that would help students in those particular areas. A lot of level 1 students, a lot of level 2 students, and they did start to excel, and they did, and we moved from a C to an A. It was pretty incredible, not only with reading, but also with math. I think having the testing coordinator, having our data folks here in our district is very important, but But once you analyze the data, the big question for us that we need to concentrate even more on is what are you going to do about the data, and then follow up. And so I think that comes down to our principals and our teachers understanding what their data is, all the way to the grade level or particular subject. It's having the teachers, and I've done this, having the teachers meet in their professional learning communities, being very collaborative to understand what the students' needs are, and even separating students into different classrooms so that different teachers can handle different parts so that efficiently we can help students move forward. I've engaged many parents in, I don't want to call it a parent university, but parent information sessions where this is what we're working on with your child, this is what you should do at home, and this will really help. That has helped quite a bit as well. I think making sure that we do have the right programs, the right resources for them is very important, which I know I've done when I was deputy superintendent of academics. We always looked at that to see what we could do. But for me personally, it was all about, it's kind of sounds simple, but it's analyzing the data, understanding it, then putting forth a plan that you're going to utilize with the students and parents, and then doing it and following up on it. What happens is, sometimes we have a gap in follow-up, because there's a lot of other things going on, and we don't follow up on what we just did. We have to do that. We have to make it a priority. It has to be non-negotiable. So when you look at our acceleration, for instance, college and career acceleration, middle school acceleration, when you look at those areas, we're lacking there. And we're St. Johns County, we have a lot of students who are accelerating, but our numbers don't reflect that. In middle school, we're at 74% for acceleration. College and career for high schools, we're at 59%. We're 42nd in the whole state. And we have so many students who are engaged in upper level classes. So we know what the data looks like, but what are we doing about it? And I know our curriculum department has really worked hard to move students into higher level classes, especially those that are level 4, level 5 students, because you would not believe how many students are level 4, level 5, and they don't take the higher level classes. I think we need to ensure that every student in our school district at some point in their high school career should take a higher level class. And we need to do that. Because 59%, I mean, I think math solves at like 75%, and we're at 59%. That's just not good, especially for our district. So we need to move that forward. But it's all about what I just said. Analyzing the data, knowing what we need to do, make sure everybody does know it, and we do a great job of that. And then we have to do something about it. And move it forward, follow up, non-negotiable. How are we doing in this? Prioritize it, focus on it. This is what we're doing, this is where we need to go. That's how you get that done, I think.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to shift gears a little bit, because you talked about data and analyzing. Is it not coming?
I'll read you which one you talk. Yes.
All right. The question would be, shifting gears. What have you done to work with employee retention?
Yes. So there's been a lot done with recruitment, obviously. With employer retention, I think when you look at retention, one of the things that we looked at this year was talking to our principals and our teachers about what it is that we need to do to retain folks. And we got a lot of great information. And what do principals do to retain folks? I think I said it in my video where research says belonging, purpose, those kinds of things are very, very important. Teachers need to know that they are valued. They need to know that they have a purpose and that they're following some sort of strategy to reach a goal or a vision. And what is that vision? And how can we make that happen? And how can I bring value to that? I think providing the time for teachers, for instance, to meet in collaborative groups, very important. At the district level, we are always meeting in collaborative groups to solve problems. The teachers are in classrooms all day, they need time to do that. I know this sounds like a crazy idea, but we always talk about planning time, right? It's always a big issue, even in negotiations. And this is not a negotiation, this is just an idea. But, you know, teachers like to be treated as professionals. I think we all do, and they are professionals. They're very good at what they do. We need to listen to what they're doing and help them with that. They have a certain number of classes per day, and then we have these planning times. There's always this planning time, 45 minutes, 50, you get 52, you get this. Why don't we just say, look, teachers, you have 6 classes to teach, these are the time of your classes, the rest of your day you figure it out. You're a professional. If you need to get together, if you need to plan, if you need to do things, but we want to see results. But you plan on your own and treat them as a professional. I know it's probably, I don't think it's probably something that's ever been done before. It's probably a crazy idea, but we had never ever looked at that before. And maybe it is time to look at that. I have a couple other items here that I wrote down. Over the last 5 years, we've had 5,657 employees resign. 5,657 resign. 4,252 of those were in the first 5 years of being here. So we need to look specifically at our people who are joining our system that have been here 5 years or less and figure out what we're going to do. We need to create new teacher modules. We need to have mentors for our teachers. I think that will help retain them. We need to give them, like I said, more time to work together on the things that we need them to work on. Substitute incentive. Here's another crazy idea. You know, we spend about, when you look at 3,500 teachers, they each receive 10 days of personal days and sick days. And a substitute costs about $125, $150 a day. Why don't we take that and set it aside for each teacher? So that would be about $1,250 for each teacher, right? If a teacher needs a substitute, we pay that sub out of that. And then if there's any money left at the end of the year, that's a bonus for them, another bonus for them. Because we were already spending $5 million a year on substitutes for those days that they are taking. So if you look at our data, we spend $5 million a year on substitute salaries. And what we need to do, I think, is set that aside, tell the teachers, when you are out, we will take $125 out of that, whatever's left you can keep as a bonus. I think they will appreciate that, especially the ones who are here all the time. I think it'll also help us to keep teachers in the classroom. That's the most important thing for a student, making sure teachers in the classroom. What do we want to make sure happens? We don't want anybody to be sick. We want them to be in front of our students every single day. So why don't we do something where we're spending money already, but let's give it back to our teachers if they don't use it. And so that might be something that would be an incentive to help our teachers. Also asking them what can we take off their plates. We always ask them that, but we need to ask them and then we can do it if we possibly can. We need to remove barriers. I know we've been doing that for the last 10 years. We put our own barriers in front of ourselves beyond the state of Florida barriers with the legislature and the laws. We have some of our own barriers that we've had in place to do it the same way we've always done it. Especially in my charge, Wayne King's done a great job of pulling some of those barriers out of the way. Onboarding, for instance, looking at that. Things like that that will keep our people here and help them feel valued because we do care about them.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, Ms. Pereira, she's going to come in from the area of business, finance, and operations.
And Brennan, you're touching on some of the questions I'm going to ask you, which leads right into it. What will any teachers' organizations or unions that you've worked with tell us about you, and what would the support staff organizations say?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Sure. What would any teachers' organizations or union that have worked with you tell us about you, and what would the support staff organizations say?
I think that I would hope that teachers would say that I listen to them, that I'm responsive to them, that I try to find out what concerns that they might have, and then try to alleviate those in our cabinet meetings or back here in the school district. Our job is to support the teachers in the schools, because they support our students, and that's the bottom line. And so I think that they would say that I am collaborative, that I'm supportive. I know that in Sarasota, when I would meet with the union, like once a month, every other month, we would have a Teams meeting, and I think there'd be 2,000 teachers on there. And it was just a time for them to talk to me, tell me what they thought, tell me what was going on. And the funny thing is when you do that, you can kind of whittle it down to like 3 or 4 or 5 things that you need to really look at and work on. That will really help teachers feel supported. And so I know I've tried to do that as much as possible, doing that and following our strategic plan and how it all fit and aligned together with the training. So I think they would say that I listen to them, I support them. We're always trying to find ways to help them with training, find time for training. We do have a large number of training sessions in our school district, which is fantastic, that people can choose from. I think that's very, very important. I think as far as dollars are concerned, I've been the lead negotiator for SJEA this past year. I was able to really get in and understand the past and how they feel and what they think and so on. And it was very important, I think, for us to use that referendum when we did, where we took that 85% of the referendum and put it into 3 buckets based on how many employees we have, so that SJEA felt like they were being shorted, wouldn't feel that way, because the money in their bucket is the same per person allocation as the other buckets, like AMC, like SJEA. So I think they appreciate that. They know I listen to them. They like the fact that I was able to talk with them and listen to their angst and some of the issues and concerns that they might have, and that we actually are doing something about it. And again, thank you to the community for the referendum, because that has allowed us to do that. So what does that really do? That really allows them to trust us, trust me, that I said I would do this, and trust us, to where now they won't move on to another school district or another job. We will keep those really, really great people here.
And that kind of leads into my next question, is how have you been involved in budget development and ongoing fiscal management in the past?
Yes, so, wow, different ways as a principal, and then associate superintendent of HR, deputy superintendent of academics, deputy superintendent of operations. They're all a little bit different budgets, and then superintendent. I know spending a lot of time with the CFO is very important. Going through all the numbers is very, very important. Always to make sure that we have enough money for certain items. Also understanding that 85% of our budget is people, and so we want to try and keep our wonderful, awesome people, but we also need to make decisions, hard decisions sometimes, about different positions. Not that we would release a person, but different positions that we might have to delete to make it work. The staffing formula has been a big part of the budget as well. I think for me, like I said earlier, in this position as superintendent, there's quite a bit of angst about what's coming and what the funding looks like. There just is. We're going to have to really, really buckle down and, like I said, look under every rock and see what we want to prioritize in regards to our strategic plan, to make sure that we are spending properly. Because the only way we can make it happen, since we have fixed revenue, is to cut our expenses or make sure that our expenses are meeting some sort of ROI situation. We're going to have to look at that very closely. I know nobody in this room really likes to hear that. Nobody in this room is it's the truth, it is factual, and we need to really pay close attention to that.
Well, that will bring us to my next question, is beyond the traditional funding sources, what are the innovative approaches you've taken to generate additional added revenue and resources for your district?
Yes, so there are other sources of revenue such as foundations. I know our education foundation is fantastic, does an amazing job. We really appreciate them. I know there's other foundations that are out there that probably help us. We just need to build relationships with them and talk through some things, how they can be a partner with us. In Sarasota, there are 4 foundations in addition to the Ed Foundation that I really would spend quite a bit of time with and let them know our needs. And those foundations really helped us out quite a bit, especially with training, teacher training and paying for a lot of that, so we have to pay that out of our Title II budget. And so I think it's very important to look at those resources. Also, business partners. You know, we have amazing business partners, and I think what people need to understand, if they don't already, is inform them of what we do, how we do it, how we spend it, how we receive revenue, and what are our needs. So one thing I found when we were going through all those presentations with the referendum was, it wasn't even as much as whether because people love our school district. They love the fact that they can now understand how the money flows, where it comes from, where it goes, how does it work, so that we're transparent and accountable.
So then that will lead to my next question, and before we move on, and that'll be, what strategies have you employed to manage the district's risk exposure and insurance cost? And how do you balance that risk management with educational innovation? And so it's going right to what you're talking about.
Right. So, again, you know, we're self-insured, which is wonderful. I know when I was at Fenn the other day, there were, 60 districts in the room, and only 3 of them were not self-funded. Everybody understands that that's the best way to go. And so we're doing a great job there. We can control that revenue coming into the insurance fund. The hard part is controlling what's going out in the claims. You can't control it. You never know. So you're always trying to make sure that you're able to cover that and plan for that. You know, looking at the staffing formula, we need to look at the staffing formula to make sure that we are not overstaffing. I mean, we have 50 schools. If we overstaff by 1 person at, let's say, 60,000, what is that? $3 million. Just like that, $3 million, 1 person in every school, or every school building, if they're overstaffed. So we have to pay close attention to that. And even during the school year, we have to come back and meet with principals and say, okay, have students moved to where a teacher who was a one-on-one now doesn't have that student, didn't go with that student, but we're still paying for them. Why are we doing that? We need to look at, like I said, our vendors, our contracts. We need to look at all of that and understand if we need to delete any of those. We need to look at our programs. We need to look at the programs that are in our schools. Many programs. A lot of them that we can't even support because there's so many of them. Our tech department can't support them, but we're paying for them. And then other schools are paying for the same thing, and we have redundancy. We could have made that a little bit cheaper. So there's all those kinds of things. Looking at training and making sure we're getting the money that, looking at travel, we need to cut back on travel. So there are areas that we can certainly look at and cut back, and we need to certainly do that while we continue to look at more revenue. So we'll try to increase the revenue. We have to cut our expenses. That's how businesses make it work. That's how we need to make it work. All while trying to keep high quality education for each and every student, because that is our job. That is our job.
Thank you.
I'm going to move to, that will be talking about interventions.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. superintendent can do is make sure that within the strategic plan, make sure everybody understands the vision. Make sure you understand where we're going, what we're doing. Make sure we're transparent, factual. People need to understand what it might look like down the road, what are we striving for. So when we talk about parents, I think it's very important that we have a good number of town hall meetings. I love town hall meetings. I think they're a wonderful way to find out what the community thinks and for them to ask questions and to understand what we do. Because I think a lot of people don't understand what happens in the school system. And that allows them to ask really good questions and then allows us to work together collaboratively with them to solve issues. So there are a lot of people out there that aren't in the school system that have really good ideas that we need to look at. And we're in an environment now that things are changing so fast. We need people who have other ideas about some things that we need to look at carefully. And the only way to do that is listen to our parents and our community and in town hall meetings. Other ways, like we said before, having podcasts, having social media, finding out what it is, because we always thought, we've always thought, gosh, communicate, don't get it out to everybody. You can throw leaflets out the helicopter, and you're still not going to get everybody, But what we need to do is understand what does our community like to utilize as communication. And I think Christina's doing a great job with that, is finding out what it is that they utilize. So we can get communication out all the time. So it shows up on their text or it shows up on their email. They're not always thinking about going to our webpage. And so they need to see that, oh yeah, look at that, I need to ask some more questions about that. And move forward there. So I think getting videos out, like in Sarasota, I did a video every Friday. There was a video out there. It was like a 2-minute video, went to each and every school so that the community could see what was going on in each and every school. It wasn't about me at all. It was about asking students questions, asking teachers questions, finding out what's going on in our schools. And people loved it. There was, like I said before, 250,000 views just on that. And then people would, if they see a poll, hey, I didn't see one this Friday. I can't believe it. How come I didn't see it Friday? They just wanted to see it. And so I think if they're wanting to see things, they know where to look. This new technology parent square that we have coming on board, I think that's going to really be a good thing. I think it's going to help our community understand. Now, as far as schools are concerned, going out there, faculty meetings, meet with the principal, meet with teachers, not for me to stand there and talk to them, but to say, what are the 3 biggest topics that you find as a concern that we can help you with to help your students? I think it's very important for us to do that as well. And you'd be amazed at all the different responses that you get and come back and have you talk through and how do we fix this, bring teachers and administrators on board for little committees to say, okay, here's what we're going to do, here's how we're going to move forward, this is the process, this is the system, here's what we need to do. It's different than anything we've done before, but let's try it and see how it works. I think that also gives our teachers the feeling that they can take risks and not worry about it. They're not fearful. I think so many, especially around COVID, everybody's so fearful about everything, political unrest and everything else. I'm going to get fired. No, you're not. We just need to work together, work collaboratively, understand what we're doing, know what the vision is, talk to each other, collaborate, and not have fear about all these great new ideas that you have. And I think that's very important. And then keeping here in the district, having periodic meetings with directors instead of just cabinet, having the director meetings so directors understand our philosophy, where we're going, what we're doing. I think that's very, very important as well. But I really do feel that we need to do a lot with our social media, podcasts, videos, town hall meetings, especially in an environment that we are having to compete more than ever before. We all like competition. We all know that we're the best education on the block. So we need to make sure people know about that, so that they're not taking those scholarships and going elsewhere.
And I know you touched on in your professional experience, but I'm going to ask this question in terms of goes back to how have you collaborated with various levels of government, the local, state, and federal to advance education initiatives? What specific outcomes resulted from these partnerships?
Can you ask one more time?
And the question is, how would you collaborate with various levels of government, state, local, and federal to advance what specific outcome results from these partnerships?
Yes, great question. I know, I keep bringing it up. I know back this year, so when I was superintendent, I did meet with the legislative delegation to make sure that they understood our platform, our school district platform, which really aligned a lot with other school districts and FADS, the Superintendent Association, but to make sure they understood what our needs were. Here, same thing. You know, we have Logan Lowry, who's now out serving in the military, but he'll be back, but he's really our go-to person as far as governmental relations goes, and Nicole Covich as well. But to make sure that we take your legislative platform and move it forward in Tallahassee. The only way to do that, I think, is in the off-season, meeting with delegates, sitting down with the legislative delegates to understand what we need to happen and some of the ideas that they have, what consequences are going to occur if they move forward with this. Sometimes we'll get those mandates and then there's no money with them, or it could negatively affect the school district in some way, negatively affecting our students in some way. So it's very important to talk to them and collaborate and discuss with our legislators. And I've done that. Did it when I was president of FASA. I was in FASA for a long, long time and always in Tallahassee talking to legislators about what we felt needed to happen. And a lot of times they will listen. They will listen to you and actually do something about it, especially if they know that it's going to prevent a catastrophe because they realize there's this consequence that's going to happen. It's going to affect them and their constituents. So I think having that conversation is very important. At the end of the day, what is it for? To better help our students be successful. And that's really what we're all about. That's what we need. And we need the legislators to know that and understand. I think they have somebody that they're with the police, they're with the fire department, they're with the hospitals, they're doing insurance. When we have time with them, we need to help them really understand this is what we do and how we do it, and this is why. And how can the laws you produce help with this and not be negative consequences so we can help our students move forward. I think that's very important. That's what I've done. I did that with FAST. I did that as superintendent. I did that in my time here in St. John's as well, going to Tallahassee and talking to them, or even right here in our community, talking to folks.
And this kind of ties into this question. How would you ensure the school board is informed on important matters? And how would you ensure that the public are informed on important matters? How would you ensure that the staff also are informed on important matters? So we want to gather everyone. And before, I know you spoke about FASA, would you, for the record, tell a few viewers what FASA is?
Oh, FASA is the state association, it's the Florida Association of School Administrators.
Thank you. Would you like to repeat your question again?
Yes, you would, if you would, please.
How would you ensure the school board is informed of important matters, the public informed of important matters, and staff informed also on important matters?
Right. So I think, first of all, with the board, very important to make sure that you all know what's going on and to meet or talk frequently on the phone or in person. In Sarasota, I met one-on-ones every other week, just to make sure that the board members knew what was going on. Making sure there's no surprises. The worst thing that we can do, I think, and this board is, I want to say, not just because I work here, this board is fantastic as far as working together for our kids and making decisions. You do a great job. But I will say that we need to make sure that we continue to do that. That brings confidence for our community when they see that we're all together on the same page on things. What we don't want to do is surprise each other. I don't want to surprise you. You don't want to surprise me. Let's talk about whatever it is we need to talk about. And if it's something we need to analyze, we'll talk about that. But not to put people on the spot and that kind of thing. That's just never good at all, and it promotes a feeling of weakness or not confidence. So we need to do that. So my job is to make sure that you know everything that's going on. I'm available all the time, anytime, 24/7, and anytime you have a concern or question. Retreats are good for us as well. We can do some of those as well. as far as school district personnel, and parents and so forth, I think being timely, factual, and transparent. Even if it's bad news, we have to be transparent and factual, because if we're not, it creates a vacuum for people to put in social media, which are going to do anything they want, and it doesn't have to be factual, and people will believe it. You know this from, obviously, from experience. But we need to push out as much as we can in those social media types of resources that parents and our community and our employees see. Facts, transparent, complete, timely. We need to make sure that we do that and do it in a way that people are going to receive it and understand it and know where we're going with it and what we're doing about it. Now, there are some times where we can't, because if we're involved with the sheriff's office and we're doing an investigation, we have to work through that. And Christina does an amazing job with all of that, getting that information out. And Paul Aptenosi also, Mike Strasbourg, they do a great job of getting out what needs to come out. But at the end of the day, whatever it is, I think we need to be transparent. I think we'll build the trust that people know. We're putting out bad news just like we put out good news, because you need to know so we can all move forward and find solutions.
And my last 3 minutes will be this question is, how would you work with the board to establish a dynamic shared vision for education that reflects students' needs and community's priorities?
Yeah, so I think, like I said, working with the board closely to understand, first of all, that we all understand our strategic plan, where we're going, what's our vision, where we're moving. But then also for me to understand your concerns, what you would like to see. What are your goals? And that's very important. And I know, each of you have constituents. You are elected. It's tough. It's tough to be a board member and to be an appointed superintendent, trying to work that out, especially when you have sunshine law, where it's not like we can all just get together wherever we want to get together and talk about things. It's all out in the sunshine. And so talking to you individually is my job, and trying to put that together to where we can look at a workshop and get nods. If you want us to move forward here, move forward there, that's very, very important. And that needs to happen. But I think understanding what your needs are, what your goals are, hopefully we're all on the same page. If not, we should all get on the same page, and that's my job to help with that, so that at the end of the day, like you said, Mr. Coleman, we are helping each and every student move forward successfully in our school district. So when they leave, they have a great plan, whether they're going to college, workforce, or military. They feel confident in what they're doing when they leave, because of this board and because of us all working together collaboratively.
Thank you, Mr. Aspen, and I will move to board member slide, performance and accountability.
Dr. Esplin. My first question is, based on what you know about our school district, what do you think is the greatest potential for improvement, and where are our greatest opportunities?
Okay, so great question. Accountability. I think the three, if I was to say the three biggest areas, kind of what I said already a little bit. It's not all about trying to get scored. We are a great school district. We're in the top of the state, right? We want to continue to, so if we are doing that, that means our kids are learning, our kids are growing and doing what they need to do. So we look at data, and data happens to put you in rankings and all that kind of nonsense. So when you look at the little areas, the 11 areas that give you your school grade and your points and so forth, there are two that we're failing in, and we need to change, we need to fix. One is middle school acceleration, which is moving more students into the accelerated classes like Algebra 1. And another is our college and career area, where we need to increase the acceleration there. In middle school, I think we're 12th in the state. We're somewhere, 12th, I think. And when you look at the middle school piece, and you're looking at the 7th graders, it's all about 7th grade math. We have students who are 4s and 5s, high 3s, that don't go in to to our eligible classes, and they should. And the ones that we have pushed, when you look at the data, the ones that we have pushed into there, they do fine. They do fine. So the question should be not why should I go in there, it's why shouldn't you go in there? Give me the reason why you shouldn't be in there, because you really need to be in that eligible one class. And so I think when we start to change that a little bit, we'll be in good shape. But we are behind. We need to raise that 73% up to an 80%. We can do it easily just by making sure students that are force advised are moving into those slots. We need to do that. And I know Don Sapp and the academic department, they are working through that as well in our accountability department. The other is college and career. We are 47th out of 60 districts in college and career acceleration. And that has to do with, did you take an accelerated course and do well in high school? And that can be a lot of different things, industry certifications, ASVAB through RTC, IB, AP, ACE, all of those, anything that would be an accelerated type course, enrollment. We are pushing more students into those areas, but we need to do a much better job at that. We're only at 59%, and that is number 47 out of 60 in the whole state. And we are St. John's. We have so many students who are accelerated, but how does that happen? So we need to make sure in high school, I think, we need to make it a non-negotiable that everybody in high school takes at least one accelerated course, and we move them forward. Because when we do push them into those courses, what we find is they do well. We don't always want to have 100% in IB, 100% AP. There's a lot of kids that didn't go in there just because we want to make sure we're at 100%. But there's a lot of kids that aren't in those classes. We need to push them in there. When we've been doing that, we're not at 100%, but we're sitting at maybe 94%. Well, we just pushed a whole lot of kids in there who now feel like they can move forward with this accelerated course to feel good about going to college or in the workforce because they've had this accelerated course. So we need to really look at that. The other, well, I'm not going too long on this. The other is, when you look at our subgroups, we need to continue to look at those. Like I said before, if you look at the trends, every single subgroup, we're about 30 points away from whatever it is versus non-whatever it is, okay? 30. You look across state, everybody talks about achievement gap. It's not closing. But what I think we need to work mostly on is two things. Number one, if we want to close it, we need to hit pre-K and K harder. We need to really hit them harder. Now, we have grown. Back when I was in academics, we had like 400 students in there in pre-K classes and so forth, and now there's 800 students. So we're moving, we made that a focus, a priority, we're moving that forward. And we need to make sure that these students are receiving the vocabulary and the phonics awareness that they need, okay? To be able to but be with the other students who are already there. There's so many students that have very high vocabulary, numbers of vocabulary words. There's other students that don't. It's just because of their environment. It's their environment more than any of the labels that we give it's the environment and the connections and what they had in the past. And so we need to work on that with them at a very young age so that the closer they are, because in our district, we are rising everybody. It's just, we always stay 30 points apart. So everybody's rising, and our final numbers are much higher than the state's final numbers because they're rising too, but they're down here at 30 apart. We need to continue to do it, but if we make it happen here at pre-K and kindergarten, first grade, to where they're together, now they go together. There is no gap when you do that, right? Because you started just like when you're running track. Person starts 20 yards in front of you, there's always going to be a gap because both of you run 100 miles an hour. You're not going to close the gap unless somebody slows down or somebody speeds up. Both those have to happen to close the gap. And we don't want our top kids to go downwards. We're trying to get our lower kids to move faster than our top kids are moving, and that's, so how do we move them together? So I think we need to concentrate on our little guys, and then we need to concentrate on acceleration. And then I think when our students get to high school and they're moving into graduation, number one, our academy students, we should have a mentor for every one of them, some sort of business mentor for everyone so they understand more about the business, which I know that they do some of that. But also, we should make it also non-negotiable with our counselors and everything that each of our seniors will have a documented plan of action when they graduate. So they don't walk across that stage and just go home and now what? They know what. They know before they even graduate what's going to happen. Most of them do. There's a lot of students that don't. And they call us back and ask us questions. And I'm glad we're doing the financial classes because they ask questions about, I bought a car thing, I got ripped off. What should I do about this credit card? You guys didn't teach us about that. What can I do? That's really going to help us a lot. But there are students that have no plan when they leave, and they need to have one. They need to have a plan. And Zillow, that we utilize through the state, which is kind of like Naviance, everybody needs to be on that. Everybody needs to have a plan of action and be able to verbalize it and show us, what is your plan when you walk out that door?
Thank you very much. Shifting gears, teacher satisfaction is essential to a high-performing district. What specific ways would you ensure that our teachers are supported, valued, and honored in those kind of schools?
When you look at teacher comments, especially when we have tagged the Teacher of the Year group and they give their comments and so forth, a lot of it has to do with training and support in their classrooms, like mentor support, training, more time for collaboration with other teachers, learning how to collaborate with other teachers, because we have groups that do a great job of it and move forward, and others that really haven't figured it out yet, and we continue to work on them. But supporting them in those actions. I think one of the things that we need to do more of is, for instance, at different schools, we have different levels of performance with PLCs, for instance, right? And there are certain principals who have really, really great ideas that they utilize in their schools with their PLCs. And when I go around and I hear different things, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. You shared that with anybody? No, I haven't really talked to any of my colleagues about that. We need to put them in front of everybody at a principal's meeting. And we need to have them talk through that and collaborate with the other principals, give them the ideas and understand what that means, what that looks like. We need to have videos to show what does training, a good training look like? What are the look-fors for an administrator? If an administrator has to figure out what a good training might look like. What do teachers need to know about what a good PLC is? What is it all about? We're answering those 4 questions that we have from what's his name? Dufour. So Dufour's 4 questions are perfect, and they need to answer those in these PLCs. So I think training, time, showing an exemplar, and then showing a non-exemplar, and then putting our own people in front of our own people. Because we have people knocking it out of the park that never are able to get up in front of everybody else and do the training and show people this is practical, this is real. We're not talking about the books anymore. We're not talking about theory. We're not talking about norms and this and that and whatever. This is how you do it. This is what it looks like. This is what works. And this is why our kids are excelling. And here's what we do. Now, you can take it or leave it. This is what we do. Instead of too much of our leaders presenting that to teachers, it needs to be more peer-to-peer, and we need to do that more. And I think that will help teachers feel better about being here, being valued, finding purpose, staying with us, and receiving that training to help them with the support that they need in the classes. And I don't know who's behind me, but I hope I'm not offending anybody. I'm just calling it like I see it, and we have amazing people working for our school district. Don't get me wrong, they do a great job. I wouldn't want to work anywhere else. They're so focused and so awesome. I just think there's things that we need to focus on and look at that'll make us even better.
Sure, obviously that. Another thing that has risen to the top of the concern of many people is student behavior.
Yes.
So how do you establish accountability systems for student behavior that support positive school culture while maintaining high expectations?
Yes. Great question. I know that there are a lot of teachers that don't feel like they're being supported with behavior in the classroom and so forth. I understand that. You know, it only takes 1 or 2 students in the classroom to mess up their whole lesson, and I've been there, done that. No, I understand it. They need as much support as they can get, but we need to pull a student out of the classroom. We need to make sure we do that. We need to give consequences and make sure that students understand what the consequences are, and parents, and do it consistently in a effectively across the district. You know, I think we have, I know we do, we have a matrix that one of the assistant principals created 5 or 10 years ago because we didn't have one, a matrix for consequences. And I know Paul Apinosi and his group uses that quite often when they're looking at gains and so on and so forth. But we need to make sure that we hold our students accountable. We need to make sure that there are consequences. We need to help the teachers understand what we did so that they understand where we are, what's going on, and what's going to happen when that student comes back. When the student comes back, we need more of a re-entrance or a back to the classroom to where they understand what they did wrong, what they're going to do differently, what changes need to happen. There's even, we have a little bit of curriculum for that situation too, to help with character and understanding the rules and making sure they understand their consequence and also what they did and how that impacted the rest of the students. Also parents helping us with that. And I think in our school district, sometimes people are upset because they don't either think we've had tough enough consequences or that we're not being consistent across the board and all the way across all of our schools. And we need to really look closely at that. Paul Apinosi does a great job looking at data, looking at what's going on in different schools, talking to principals about that, and then providing the training that we need to provide for re-entry or trying to help them come back on a positive note and do the right thing. And I think we do that quite well in that department because recidivism is low. So there's not as many of the same students every single time. And so if we can make sure that a student does something good, consequentially fix it and work through it, and they never get it, that's a win all the way across the board. But we need to stay consistent. We need to support teachers so that they can teach. It's not fair to the other 20 students sitting in there if you can't teach in class. So we need to look at that carefully.
Thank you. Final couple of minutes we have together. How do you feel that the superintendent should be held accountable by the school?
Accountable.
How should you be held accountable by the school?
Oh, by the school board. Yeah, I think the school board should hold the superintendent accountable for everything. Every single thing that happens. Good, bad, ugly, whatever it might be. I think in our conversations, I would hope that board members would just be frank with me, factual with me about what they see as a concern or problem so that we can fix it. The last thing I want to do is not fix something. I'm all about trying to fix things that maybe I don't know about. I think it's very important to make sure our communication is clear, precise, transparent, so that we can solve problems in our school district. But I think the superintendent, I know the superintendent, I mean, is responsible for everything. And so, you know, my leadership style, I am not a micromanager. Okay, I'm not. I depend on our awesome people to do their job very, very well with support. But we all work together collaboratively. We all own it. And what I love about our people is they all feel like they own it and they're going to move forward and make things happen, which makes it easier on the superintendent to own it. But at the end of the day, the superintendent owns everything, no matter what it might be.
Thank you very much.
I'm asking, what will be your day one message? Selected as superintendent.
Day one message
Yes.
to everybody? Everybody, yeah. My day one message would be, first of all, being grateful for the opportunity to be the superintendent of our school district and serve in that capacity. It is a fantastic school district. I do want everyone to know that we will be looking at every aspect of our district to see what changes might need to happen. At the same time, celebrate all the good things that we continue to have happen. I'm also going to tell everyone how much I appreciate their support in our school district for our students, also with funding and the support that the community has given. Express to the teachers that they do an amazing job and we need to listen to what they are doing in their classes. and principals. Principals know how to run their schools, and they do a really good job about it, and they know what they need. And I want them to know that we support them, we believe in them, and we expect them to lead their schools at a high level and have high expectations as we move forward to help our students be as successful as they can be when they leave us. Because that's our job, everybody. Guess what? Our job is to educate our students the best we can to make sure that they are confident and have the opportunities when they leave us. At the end of the day, that's it. Funding is an issue because we've got to figure out how to use that funding to make that happen. And we need to work together to figure all these things out, and the community needs to be involved in that too, because we need some other ideas. So I think that, and just being appreciative of everybody in our community, in our county, and how much I love being here and working with everybody. And we're going to do what's best for our students moving forward, because that's what we expect. In St. Johns County, that's what we're going to do.
That's it. We do want to share any other critical view terms on how to onboard as this superintendent.
Sorry.
Please share with us anything else you view totally critical in terms of how to onboard as your superintendent.
I think the critical things for me would really be to sit down with each of you first and make sure that I understand your concerns, how you're thinking, what means a lot to you, what you think I should be looking at, what you think the district should be looking at. Also, your constituents and the community. Trying to understand all of that, because I know, because here's what I do know, being superintendent from before. You know what you know? There's a whole lot of things going on underneath, underneath the water. There's a lot of things. And what are those things so that we can all come together and work together and be collaborative and fix problems? So I think the first thing I would want is to meet with each of you to understand our relationship and what the needs are. I think I also would like to have probably something at a large area like FCTC, bring all administrators in, and then I wish we had a large enough area to bring every teacher and employee in, but we don't. So I think at that point, going to each school and just introducing myself and talking to teachers and our support staff and so forth, I think that's very, very important. For me, it's very important to help people understand who I am, what my background is, what my views are, what's my vision, and then to hear from them what they think are concerns that we need to work on. And I think I really definitely want to do that at a town hall meeting. I think all those need to happen.
Okay, and we have still have time to wait, so I'll go back to the board members. Do you have any follow-up questions?
One of the questions that I didn't have a chance to ask was, what approaches have you taken to optimize transportation systems for both efficiency and service quality, and how do you measure the success?
Yeah, great question. And as you all know, we've had some issues with transportation from the beginning of the school year. I know we have a lot of community members that have called us that we've talked to and worked through, just because we didn't have enough drivers. And so, we had 300 buses, we had 250 drivers. We need 300 drivers, so we had 300 buses on the road, and increased the number of routes. So we had double runs, triple runs, back and forth to school, where students were late to school and everything else, and not being delivered on time and everything. The one thing I do want to say is when we do talk to the community and they understand what the issues are, they are very good about not necessarily being okay about it, but understanding it and then trying to help us and not just beat us over the head with a stick. Our community has been wonderful about that. So what have we done? Well, we had to recruit as best we can more drivers. We're down by 50 drivers. So you probably saw billboards on the side of the road. You also saw that we had rodeos and times where people could come drive the bus to try and bring people in so that they could drive a bus and see if they like it or not. Try to talk them into helping us out or being trained to get their CDL license. Also the bonus that you have helped us with to give to bus drivers has really helped us attract more bus drivers. And then also the community's vote on the referendum to help us bring more money to our support staff and our transportation staff has really helped us a lot. So right now, we are up to over 300 bus drivers. So we feel great about that. So it has worked. We train them ourselves. We actually train other truck companies too. We do that for other folks when they go and train trucks, believe it or not. There's not that many, but we do because they just jump in our classes. But they're receiving their CDLs, they're earning them, they're driving. Al Pantano is an amazing director of transportation. He's all about safety and getting our students home and to school safely and on time as much as possible. And so he runs a tight ship there, which is a really, really good thing. But our biggest thing was getting more drivers in, and we've been able to do that. We also tried to bring in new buses and release old buses when they reach about 15 to 20 years on the road, because they have so many miles, and things are starting to happen to them. He's done a great job of that with capital dollars that we get for transportation. So we have unbelievable buses that are on the road. So we have over 300 buses on the road. We have over 300 bus drivers now in attendance. And then we also have a special ESE person who helps us with the bus as well, help us with student behavior. And then we have PBIS on a few of our buses, which has really lowered our bus incidents on our buses as well by 8%. So it's a very, very good thing. I think we're moving in the right direction. Now we're opening 2 new schools, or well, one next year and then 2 more. So we're going to have more routes, more buses, more drivers. So we need to continue to move forward in all those things in the district.
Thank you. Is there any additional information that you would like to share with the board and staff?
Would that be a closing, or would that be just information? Closing. Okay. Yes. So in my closing, I just again I want to thank you for the opportunity. Also thank SJEA. They're incredible. They do a great job. And eat for the lunch today. They do an amazing job as well. But I appreciate the time that you're taking for these interviews. I know we have 4 really great candidates, and this is a really, really hard decision for a board. And I think, I know you're going to make the right decision. And so I just want to say how much I love being here. Either way, I love being here. St. John's is a great place to work. I'm here to serve. I'm here to do what it is that I can for our students. We do have many challenges coming. And I'll tell you right now, it's going to be difficult. But you know what? We've lived it before. We've gone through challenges before. How do we do that? We do that all together. And that's what we need to continue to do. We need to be collaborative with everybody and work together and make good decisions as we move forward to get through these challenges, because they are steep. We will, and we will continue to do what's best for our students and make sure that they're successful. I did, just to finish off my closing, I did want to I have a few core beliefs that I think the superintendent is, that I just wanted to mention to you that I wrote, that I think are really important, that I think the superintendent should live by, if it's okay to do this. Number 1, superintendent is responsible for establishing an environment of respect, trust, honesty, transparency, and unity, promoting authentic collaboration among the school board, district leadership team, and the superintendent. The superintendent should be characterized by ethical example and bold servant leadership. The superintendent has the key responsibility to proactively inform the school board of any and all issues in a timely manner, resulting in no surprises or miscommunication. The superintendent is responsible for promoting a culture and climate of positivity and vision that promotes authentic collaboration throughout the school district. Parents, community members, and business partners should be encouraged to participate and provide valuable input. It is the job of the district leadership and departments to provide resources and fully support principals, faculty, and staff. And the last one, finally, all school district decisions must ultimately be made through the lens of providing the best education experience and opportunities for all students in our district and seek to persistently seek improvement. Those are core beliefs that I have as a superintendent, and I would certainly bring those forward if I am selected. So thank you again for your consideration. I really appreciate all of your time.
And thank you for your interest and participating in this entire process. You have a full 2 days here with interviews, community meetings, meetings with the board. Tomorrow you will be individually with a board members one-on-one for interviews. Please let SJEA staff know if you have any questions. Thank you for putting yourself out there and for your interest in St. Thomas and our district. Please stand there and stay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I need one of those. I would have brought my card, but I forgot.